Morning, everyone.
Great, thank you. So good morning, everybody. It's July 21st, 23, and I'm saying that just because we are doing a recording this morning. This is the metro areas county commissioners, and so just want to really appreciate everybody joining us. We have a significant amount of county commissioners from out at the NACO conference today. I think it started this morning. So, but we decided to go ahead and keep this meeting because we have some guest speakers, we have some presentations, and one of the asks for MACC with the Metro Area County Commissioners with our MACC group this year was how can we move some of this work forward? And so we are trying to do that. And so we're going to be asking folks to listen into this presentation and then give some feedback so that we'll be ready for our next monthly meeting. So just want to acknowledge we have a small group here, and the homework is going to happen in a different format to get folks caught up. So really appreciate everybody joining us. So at MACC, we want to give everybody an opportunity to do some introductions. I know we have a few different folks here to do presentations. We usually have a longer meeting, and we're expecting to be off of these computers in less than an hour. So just want to appreciate everybody again. My name is Martha Loachman. I'm a Boulder County Commissioner, and we do a rotation of leadership. And so Boulder County has really the honor to be the chair of MACC this year. And we are typically at DRCOG and get continual staff support from them to run our meetings and to keep us all intact, as well as some of our Boulder County staff. So with that, what I'll do is I'll do my best to give some direction and really brief introductions from the way I'm looking at the screen. So I'm going to have both Heidi and Mark do introductions. If there's other staff folks, I'll just ask you to follow along there, and then we'll do some other direct of our presenters do introductions.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Heidi Grove. I'm the Homeless Solutions for Boulder County Systems Manager in Boulder County. And many of you have seen me do many presentations over the last year on homelessness. And with that, I will turn it over to Mark.
Good morning, all. Mark Rusin here in the Boulder County Commissioner's Office staff. I help support the MACC with Commissioner Luchemine. And I'll just take a quick second because I see Doug Rex on the call. I just want to say thanks to DRCOG for all the tremendous administrative support they provide, and especially Melinda Stevens. So I appreciate all that, and we'll look forward to being in the room at DRCOG next month.
Thank you both.
Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Smith. I'm the Community Resources Director for Arapahoe County. One of the divisions within Community Resources is our Housing and Homeless Services. So I am here in support of our commissioners who I don't believe are going to be able to make it today, but I'm here to pass along any information that is shared.
Thank you, Kathy.
And I'll pass it on to David.
Hi, my name is David Clark. I'm an outreach staff member for U.S. Representative Brittany Pedersen's office, and just wanted to hear more about community concerns in the area in and around the district. So appreciate y'all having me with us.
Thanks for joining. And I will call on Sharon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Tessier, and I am the Housing Programs Manager at the City and County of Broomfield. And likewise, NACO conference. So I'm going to be reporting back to our fellow commissioners. So thanks for allowing me to be a part of this today. I'm very excited.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. And are there other staff folks? Anybody else that we missed?
Zach, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Thanks, Heidi. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Zach Schaffner. I'm the Community Partnerships and Development Manager within the Department of Local Affairs in the Division of Housing as part of our Office of Homeless Initiatives. And thanks so much for the invitation this morning.
Appreciate you joining us. Commissioner Kerr, did you get we'll do that, and then maybe Commissioner Baca looks like just signed in.
Great, absolutely. I'm Andy Kerr. I'm one of the Jeffco commissioners. Did not go to Austin, Texas, both for weather reasons and also, hey, it's Texas, okay? But happy to be here, welcoming new folks from Denver coming in. It's great to have them included. And just wanted to also mention our August meeting, August 18th. A number of us are going to be at the opioid abatement conference in Montrose, the 16th through the 18th. So there might be some of us zooming in from Montrose next month as well.
Thanks for that heads up, for sure. Commissioner Baca? We can't hear you quite yet. We're just doing quick introductions.
Dan Casey from Broomfield is also here, so welcome, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Dan Casey. I'm the Director of Human Services for the City and County of Broomfield.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. And it looked like a Matt joined, and I don't know who that is. So do you want to do a quick introduction while we wait for Commissioner Baca? Maybe not. Okay. Was there anybody else I missed?
I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. Sorry, Jen Ritter. I'm Chief of Staff to Mayor Johnston. So thank you guys for having us today. We're looking forward to joining more of these calls and figuring out how we can best plug in with your organization. And I think our plan is on the 18th is hopefully do a formal presentation on our homeless emergency declaration that we did on Monday, so you guys can get more details on that plan. We know that this will have to be a regional effort, and we'll want to integrate your thinking and understand the work you're already doing on the issues around homelessness.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate you being here. And I didn't know if you were if you wanted to say a little bit more, and appreciate you just jumping in kind of last minute to even introduce yourself to this group. And
I wish I had more. I can kind of at least give you guys a quick overview of the emergency order, if that would be helpful. And then obviously we'll get more in depth. I did just, but I don't want to ruin your agenda, so I can also just say hi and make sure that you guys know we're present and available.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And we'll look forward to the 18th and I think we'll do a recording as well. It sounds like we might be missing some other folks. So just really want to appreciate you for being here, and Commissioner Kerr, thanks for making that connection for us this morning. Commissioner Baca?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Commissioner Lynn Baca, I serve as Vice Chair of the Board for Adams County. So the Chair is Steve O'Dorisio. He is in Austin for the National Association of Counties. And then Commissioner Emma Pinter, who also participates regularly. She's in the Harvard policy governance class that's happening in July. So I'm happy to be here. Welcome to Denver. We're very excited to have new leadership and have you join us this morning, and looking forward to your emergency declaration, some more details on that. I'm sure Marta went through all of the how we got here moments, so I'm just happy to be here this morning. I got off Zoom and I'm on Teams, and that was my little technical confusion, is that the camera and everything was not aligning. Recognize it as a different platform, but happy to be here, and thanks for making this a virtual meeting today.
Thank you. Great. All right. Well, I will try and keep my eye open if other folks join in to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. But and that was a perfect lead in, Commissioner Baca, because we hadn't kind of gone through the background. But so really briefly, what I just want to share with folks who haven't participated or might not be as familiar with MACC. Last year, we really spent the year in presentations in this idea of collaboration, having a better understanding of what work was being done regionally around the topic of homelessness. And the decision for 2023 was, what might it look like if we could all come to an agreement about what the role specifically for commissioners as elected officials to fill in potentially work gaps, not necessarily projects or programming, but what could that focus be? And Heidi Grove's been very instrumental from a staff perspective in her regional staff work around making sure that we are all informed, that we all understand what each other's jurisdiction is and is not doing in this realm, and connected it with the federal all-in framework. And so our commissioners together through MACC have been reviewing those, and we've come to an agreement on which of those pillars we may be working on. And so that's where we're at, just in a really, really brief summary, and really are looking at, again, how do we as elected officials work in this space, and also be supportive of our staff who's doing the programming and the services and resources, et cetera. So that's a quick summary of what we're doing and how we got here. And so again, the recording is going to be an opportunity for everybody who's out in other activities and other work and other programs today to hear more, so that we can get together in August and continue on the work side. So we've got a presentation from Heidi Grove, Systems Manager for Homeless Solutions for Boulder County, and also Zach Schaffner, they both got a chance to introduce themselves really quickly. He's with Community Partnerships and the Development Manager.
Events with Colorado Housing and Finance Authority and Housing Colorado. And this data keeps going to this analogy of the bathtub, right? You have a faucet of new folks coming into homelessness, whether it's due to family breakup, loss of income, high cost of housing, getting sick, losing a job, and they're coming in inflow. And then we've got actively homeless. So that's folks who are in the tub, right? They're experiencing the everyday trauma of homelessness, whether they're in shelters or staying in encampments on the street, sleeping in cars, in Walmart parking lots, et cetera. And then we have outflow. So how do we get folks out of the tub, right? Getting folks moved into housing placements. Maybe they're inactive, or we've lost contact with those individuals, or maybe, right, we thought someone was a veteran, and then we dig in a little further and we determine, oh, that person's not a veteran, we had them misclassified. So this is probably the most important slide I have, is really how we're thinking about homelessness, and how this kind of insight is incredibly valuable as we think about what's going on, and to get a picture. And once you have this information, you can make a determination of, does the intervention that you're moving forward, is it successful, right? Are we moving folks out of homelessness, or are we seeing folks who are returning back to homelessness? And I saw you have a question, Commissioner Kirk.
Yeah, definition of inactive.
Yeah, so that would be someone who we've lost contact with. Different communities use different terminology. I'm curious, Heidi, can you share, how does Boulder look at what's the threshold for moving someone to inactive?
So for Boulder, we really much align with MDHI, and Commissioner, I would assume that Jeffco is the same. It's anybody who has not touched a system, predominantly HMIS. We also have Connect in Boulder County. So we look at both systems for 90 days or more. That means that they have not accessed a single service in a given area. So it's easy, you can deduce that they are no longer in that given community.
So they might have gone into a housing situation just outside our purview, or they might have gone to a different community.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's either self-resolved, but what we do typically find is a lot of times we see individuals cross continuums of care. So like in Boulder, we are, fairly close to Fort Collins, which is the NOCO continuum of care. So once they're outside of our COC, we have to close them out, because you can't have two COCs with the same individual, if that helps.
And on that note, one really exciting benefit that we have going for us here in Colorado is we have one statewide HMIS system. So we can actually see that movement between communities. If someone is moving between Pueblo to Grand Junction, or Jefferson County to Adams County, or Pueblo or Grand Junction or Montrose, or everywhere. So that's a one benefit we have. So yeah, again, this data is really how we see the issue of homelessness, and really this is how we can determine if our intervention, what impacts they're having, if any. This is from our Making Homelessness History playbook to document the state of Colorado, introduced a few years ago. We're actually going to be doing a quick update on that coming in the next couple of months, so we'll be happy to share that. But really, this playbook, we're very proud of it. It's 5 pages. It's very straightforward, really sort of outlining how the state of Colorado sees the issue of homelessness, of trying to know we want to stop homelessness before it starts, right? Turn off that faucet. We want to identify individuals at risk, ensure they're safe. We want to know who is in that tub, who is experiencing homelessness, what their needs are, quickly connect them with the supports they need, and then look at those long-term structural solutions. We can't lose track of that as well, as that's how do we change get rid of the tub altogether, right? Look at different approaches. We also know we have to lead with equity. We know that the individuals who experience homelessness, we have disproportionalities due to historic and ongoing racism of who experiences homelessness. We have to have that person-specific data that I just shared. We need to be housing focused. We know that homelessness ends in a home, and we have to build these cross-sector partnerships. We know that homelessness happens when folks come in contact with all sorts of different systems, whether it's child welfare, Department of Corrections, our healthcare systems, hospitals. We need to be working across those sectors in order to make homelessness rare and brief. One of the reasons why I think we can speak with some authority on why we take the approach we do is due to the success we've had with Built for Zero. So for folks who aren't aware, Fremont, Colorado recently ended veteran homelessness back in 2021. They've been able to maintain that success. And actually, we were very lucky. We got to present with them at the recent Colorado Municipal League meeting. And so really had the chance to hear from their mayor, Ashley Smith, of Canyon City, and talking about how the municipality has really embraced Built for Zero and the approach of taking this system-wide approach, using that data, and then, right, as you can see in the corner, tracking those housing placements, moving folks into housing, looking at their inflow. And I'll give you a quick preview. They're very close to ending chronic homelessness as well. And they'll be one of the second or third communities in the US to reach what we refer to as 00. Once they do that, again, they're still counting their numbers. They're at that. They want to maintain it for a certain period before they're communicating it out. But our fingers are crossed, and we're really excited. And so, how Fremont County has been successful in ending veteran homelessness and reaching that functional zero designation. There's a small picture here of a lovely project that is very near and dear to my heart, known as Journey Home, which is a 30-unit permanent supportive housing development in Canyon City that serves those experiencing chronic homelessness, using resources from Division of Housing, as well as from the local community mental health center, Sol Vista, and an outstanding nonprofit, Loaves and Fishes of Fremont County. So that partnership for that building Journey Home has been a big part of their success and one of their tools in helping to make homelessness rare and brief. It is only a certain number of units, so don't want to oversell that project. And I saw we have a question.
Thanks, Zach. Can you tell me what 00 means?
Sure. So that is reaching both functional zero for veteran homelessness and chronic homelessness.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a little bit different terminology on those two different definitions, but really it means that you can consistently house more people each month than you have new people coming in. And it's not that new people won't ever fall into homelessness, but that you've got the system and infrastructure set up so that you can consistently be housing individuals. And Built for Zero, as you'll see from this map, right, we have participation from across the state. We recently, I think 95% of persons experiencing homelessness, according to the point in time, which we know has its challenges, are in communities participating in Built for Zero. So your region in the Denver Metro is participating in Built for Zero. Boulder County reached quality data, which is really exciting. I heard some really good news. We're going to have a few more counties who have reached quality data coming up very soon. I embarrassed Heidi and gave her a Stanley Cup for the Quality Data Cup a few months ago. Some lovely pictures from that. So again, this playbook really, we're looking at proven solutions. Today, I'm here to talk about supportive housing, but we know supportive housing is not a panacea, right? We need all of these interventions together in order to make homelessness rare and brief. Supportive housing is my particular area of expertise and what I want to delve in today. So why supportive housing? And what is supportive housing? So we're combining affordable community-based housing with access to those flexible community-based services to help extremely low-income individuals who face complex barriers to housing stability and are typically the least likely to resolve their homelessness. And I think that's really the key part is, right, we're not supportive housing is not the intervention that's going to work for everyone. We need this full continuum of interventions. But what we do know is that supportive housing is very effective for those who are often the least likely to self-resolve. These are also clients who are the most likely to be in emergency rooms, in our detox facilities, in incarceration. And we also know that supportive housing reduces these ER visits, hospital stays, psychiatric admissions, Medicaid costs, incarceration, right? We know that there's the moral aspect of, right, we want to end homelessness because it's a great thing to do, but it's also, we're going to see reduced public expenditures. You know, we're paying for folks to experience homelessness. We can either pay for a supportive housing intervention, or we can pay for these folks to languish on the streets, in our hospitals, jails, detox facilities. And so that's part of why the state of Colorado has really adopted supportive housing and made it a priority. And it's one of Governor Polis's wigs is on the production of high quality supportive housing units is for exactly this reason. Just for folks who are not aware, and I would be remiss if I didn't point out some of these pictures, as many of them are, all of them are in your communities, right? So we've got St. Francis at Cathedral Square there. This is the groundbreaking for solid ground apartments that will be in Jefferson County, St. Francis, Warren Villages, and then Ario Village, a partnership with Brotherhood Development and the Dolores Shelter. And so, component of supportive housing, individuals have the rights and responsibilities of tenancy. So they have a lease agreement, they're responsible for complying with that lease agreement. The difference from typical market rate housing is that in the event that a client is engaging in a big behavior, and if we're getting to our target population, we know they will have big behaviors, the focus is on keeping them in that housing. That's the whole focus between the partnership with property management, supportive service providers, whether you have front desk staff, is to say, okay, we know John Smith has a lot of things going on in their life. Maybe it's substance use disorder, maybe it's a severe behavioral health need of some other kind. But if we know that it's going to be a lot cheaper for us as a community to keep John Smith in that housing than for them to return to homelessness and experience, again, that cycle of trauma that we know occurs. So individuals have individual choice is a huge component of supportive housing, and really asking, what are your needs? What are you interested in? What do you want to accomplish? Using that progressive engagement, motivational interviewing approach. Individuals pay 30% of their income towards rent. A huge important lesson that we've learned at Division of Housing is that you have to have vouchers in supportive housing. And right, as folks have tried to implement the supportive housing model, it's been a real challenge, but we know that voucher is essential because it's what allows John Smith to move into an apartment like Ario Village and pay 30% of their income towards rent. And then the voucher pays the rest. So the quick numbers, and I say this all the time, and I think it still applies, is right, if John Smith makes $1,000 a month, and that's all that John Smith has in a one-bedroom apartment, he finds a great, amazing apartment for $1,000, could pay 100% of their income towards rent, but that means no money for food, no money to go anywhere, no money for healthcare needs, no money for education. The voucher says, okay, instead of paying $1,000 a month, you're going to pay $300 a month for that apartment. The voucher is going to pay $700. Together, that comes up with $1,000. And then if John Smith's doing really well and income increases and John Smith's making $3,333 a month, 30% of that is $1,000. The voucher payment is $0. John Smith is able to support themselves. And we have a process in the project-based world around, we say, okay, after 6 months, maybe we'll take that voucher offline and John Smith continues to live there because, right, that's John Smith's apartment. This is not a facility. This is not a program. This is affordable housing with access to wraparound services. And if John Smith says to his case manager, no, thank you, maybe uses some colorful language, that's okay, because that case manager is going to keep saying, all right, well, whenever you're ready, we're here. You're going to keep your housing. We're going to have a conversation about the loud music you're playing at 2 a.m. or walking around without no clothes on, that sort of thing. But that's the way we're going to engage and really have that focus and understanding that John Smith has a lot of trauma, and may also a big component of why these buildings and the design is so important is John Smith may have relationships with other individuals who may not be the best influence on John Smith. John Smith was surviving and made some relationships, and those not all be positive. And so, but that's John Smith's apartment. So how can we ensure that we keep John Smith in that housing? How we fill these buildings, typically we partner and we take referrals 50% through the regional coordinated entry system. In your case, for most folks, that's the one home coordinated entry system. And then 50% come from a DOH approved referral process, whether that's from a service provider. We have a partnership with a project in Commerce City that's going to be coming soon, where those referrals will come in conjunction with Department of Corrections, which we're really excited about. But we look for that 50-50 split because we know that there's a relationship between services funding and tenant selection plans, which fill these buildings. And I'll talk about that in just a minute here. There's different types of supportive housing. I've really described a lot of single site project-based supportive housing. There's some examples here. We've got Providence at the Heights with Second Chance Center in Arapahoe County. Then I think that's 30 Pearl in Boulder County there at the bottom. But those are just single site buildings. They're much easier to find pictures of single site buildings. The other side is a scattered site model. So that's an instance where John Smith has a voucher and is looking for units in the community where they can utilize that rental assistance. So it relies on the rental market of those who would accept a voucher from an individual, but the same applies on having a case manager who can engage with that property owner when big behaviors occur, engage with them, try and focus on keeping them in housing. More and more at the Division of Housing, we've really started, as folks have embraced the supportive housing program model, we've seen it be replicated. We start to really raise our standards for what high quality supportive housing is. And so we're requiring a supportive service budget and plan that goes out 15 years. We want to see commitments of all the funding sources that are used. We want to see MOUs between the partners. And we want to see that this is low barrier and folks are truly serving those who are the least likely to self-resolve their homelessness. We're also really exciting. We're partnering with the Corporation for Supportive Housing. They helped us create some performance measures for supportive housing. We've rolled those out so they're being reported through HMIS, which has been really valuable so we can actually see in that statewide HMIS system the success of these programs and the positive outcomes around housing stability, engaging in community-based services and supports, just ensuring that these folks are really have the opportunity to live a safe, stable life and can thrive. And that means engaging with non-supportive housing based services, but are going to the local library, are joining clubs, are going to the park, that are just that they have those other community-based supports and that they have the opportunity to give back, because oftentimes these are folks who are incredibly generous and care about their communities once they have that safe, stable housing. We know it plays this important role in supportive housing. We have a 92% housing success rate as documented through our homeless management information system, or HMIS. That's after a year of tenancy, 92% of folks are staying in their housing. I have some examples all the way from Sanderson Apartments in Denver, Legacy Lofts in Denver, 1440 Pine Street in Boulder, Brandon Courtyards in Denver, 40 West Residences in Lakewood, and Colorado Coalition for the Homeless's Renaissance Downtown Lofts. We have really worked at the state of Colorado to align our resources in order to create new supportive housing opportunities. We know these housing opportunities, when we talk about those different interventions, supportive housing is a cost-intensive intervention, right? Where everyone's going to have a non-time limited rental assistance voucher that's going to help pay rent. We're going to combine those supportive services. And so we want to ensure that we've aligned our resources. So one of the best ways we've done that is our partnership with the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority to do joint underwriting for any permanent supportive housing developments. And so we introduced that process in 2014. And since then, we've created more than 3,700 new units of permanent supportive housing. And we're really proud of that number, but we know we're only really getting to the tip of the iceberg. We have to continue to increase those high quality supportive housing interventions. And again, we need them to be project-based and tenant-based. Not every individual wants the same housing type. Some folks are going to want to be in a more of a, maybe there's 15 units in a larger 60 unit development. Some folks are going to be around other folks. Some folks might just want a tenant-based voucher and in an apartment building and not have those wraparound supports. But it really, right, we have that continuum of need, we need that continuum of resources. The biggest challenge that we've faced is on services. And I'm happy to delve into the underwriting of supportive housing projects, but really what it comes down to is we're using all sorts of different funding sources to pay for those services right now. But every dollar that Division of Housing spends on services is a dollar we're not spending on rent or construction. And that's mostly what we're known for. We're a gap funder. So folks get their low-income housing tax credits, and then if there's a gap between what they can get from their tax credits, what kind of loan they can get from a bank, they'll come to us for a gap finance as a gap funder. The challenge, right, is we're always looking for these projects to be designed, purpose-built for supportive housing. That means these buildings can be expensive, and so we want to put every dollar they can into creating the building. But if they have to put that money towards services, and we know services are essential, right? We do not want to just put folks in housing without resources. That is not the supportive housing model. And I think the terminology or the phrase I've definitely heard folks describe as, right, housing first is housing only. And we're really, I think Governor Polis has helped us really push back on that and say, we know that we have to have those robust supports in place in order to keep folks in their housing. And that's been a real focus and why I'm very excited to talk about the slide after this one. So again, there's different ways to pay for services. You can use cash flow, right? So you have your income coming in from the rent, you pay off your hard pay debt, and then you put some of that towards services. Again, it's difficult to do that. It makes these projects more expensive. It limits the type of funding they can get. We've had really great success with things like the Denver Social Impact Bond, which was deemed by the evaluators to be an overwhelming success. And that was in partnership with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless and WellPower. The City of Denver Division of Housing provided vouchers for the Social Impact Bond. And you really using that pay for success model as part of the financing for the services, that investors would get a payback if they saw a reduction. That intended reduction was stays in Denver jails, and so that was a success, and investors did get paid back. There's another funding source, the developer fee. CHAFA, the Colorado Housing Finance Authority, generously has allowed a 5% developer fee boost to pay for supportive services. Very useful. That is one of the best things that Colorado has going for it, that makes us an attractive proposition for folks to do supportive housing, is that ability to get that increased developer fee boost that has to be used for services. But it is tricky around the investors for that project wanting to have oversight over how those funds are used. So, and then the other big piece, really what I'm here to talk about, is Medicaid. I am not a part of our Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing, our state Medicaid agency, but we know, and the Denver Social Impact Bond showed us, that Medicaid is a potential funding source for supportive housing. And if we're taking the approach of housing as healthcare, we know that we want to move in this direction of Medicaid. The challenge that we have right now is that the services, who can access what services through Medicaid, really depends on what type of organization you are, what your billing structure looks like, what your relationship to the regional accountable entity is. For some folks that might be Colorado Access, Recommend Health Plans, different entities who you raise. So that's kind of the challenge of getting access to Medicaid right now is a barrier for funding supportive services. And that is why we have introduced the best acronym in state government, SWISHY, the Statewide Supportive Housing Expansion Project. And so we were able to use some American Rescue Plan Act funds that were allocated to healthcare policy and financing in order to create this program, which said we're going to identify 500 Medicaid members, and we're going to match them with a project-based or tenant-based voucher from Division of Housing, and we're going to provide these supportive services funding to the service providers for the essential services. And so we've got a large cohort of supportive housing providers who are participating in SWISHY. They have those dedicated service dollars, And it's really exciting. We are seeing tremendous success. The big thing here is, right, we're looking at around 10,000 per household in supportive services available through Swishy. It's American Rescue Plan Act funds. It's not yet Medicaid funding, but the goal is that this is going to really help us get ready and really go in depth and have HCPF go in depth on the services that are reimbursable through Medicaid and really go through this process with the supportive housing service providers, because doing supportive housing is a very critical function, and not every organization understands those nuances around, right, you're going to work with property management, and you're going to talk about front desk, and you're going to motivational interviewing, and if John Smith, you know, flips you off in the parking lot, you're not going to evict him. All those sort of little nuances around the services are really important, and we've got those increased number of supportive housing service providers, but they keep saying, right, well, you know, if I drive John Smith to his appointment to the DMV to get a license, so we can move him into a voucher unit, I can't get reimbursed for that. And so that's what we're really trying to do with this Swishy effort, is to really get a good picture of what services are needed to keep folks in housing, and then looking at the infrastructure and the Medicaid system to pay for those services. It is really exciting. I mean, I will say I worry at times I'm the boy who cried Medicaid when it comes, and Heidi's heard that joke like 10 times, but that we are really excited about our partnership with Healthcare Policy and Financing. This is the most engaged they've ever been. This is a real priority for the administration around how we can ensure this effort continues, right? Those ARPA funds are not going to last forever. We really want to make sure that we have that transition in place and have planned accordingly, to make sure that we can make that movement from those ARPA dollars into accessing funding through Medicaid. And so that's the conversation is ongoing between Healthcare Policy and Financing and our national partners. We're working with the Corporation for Supportive Housing. We're working for NASHB, the National Academy for State Housing Policy, who's helped fund this effort, to ensure that, again, we aren't leaving providers in this difficult position where they've had funding and they lose it. We really want to have that smooth transition in place. But again, those folks from Healthcare Policy and Financing can go more in depth. I don't want to get in too much trouble with them in over-promising, but we are really excited about this effort because we know how essential those services are. And if we don't have those services, we can't do the supportive housing model, can't implement it to fidelity, and we know that we're not going to get those housing outcomes. So we really believe with these appropriate supports, we continue to have those great outcomes, but it's going to require that we engage with Healthcare Policy and Financing and eventually with CMS, the federal entity overseeing Medicaid, to ensure that we've got our process in place and we're pursuing the relevant potential waiver authorities and things like that. So I will stop there. I know I was fast and furious, but happy to answer questions on what the state's focus, why we're focused on this, and what's coming next.
Zach, thank you so much. It's great information. Really appreciate it. And for folks that are going to be listening to this later, that slide deck will get sent out as well for folks to review in written form, as well as while they're listening to the presentation later. So let's open up for questions. And then commissioners who are on this call, just want to make sure you all know that together with other folks, we'll have some more question and conversation about this information together in August, but certainly any questions you have initially are great. And certainly staff or anybody else that has questions, please participate. That wasn't the indication. Absolutely. Heidi, go ahead.
So Zach, from the elected's perspective, recognizing that policy, advocacy, and those pieces are really essential, how can the MACC membership support this expansion with Medicaid? Because we recognize that supportive services dollars are really hard to come by. And so what role can the elected bodies really as a collective voice play in supporting these efforts?
Thanks, Heidi. And as a state employee, I don't always get too involved in the legislative process, but I do know there likely will be a few bills that will be associated with Swishy and then with pursuing potentially a waiver authority. And so I know that I believe there's a few representatives who are moving forward with that bill. It's I believe it's going to be Representative Mary Young and Representative Ryan Amagost. Those conversations originated from the Substance Use Disorder and Study Committee within the state legislature. So that is the one piece I can share that I believe, right, those conversations, that legislative body has discussed this potential running a bill of some kind.
I wondered, and this is for commissioners to consider too as we move into our conversations in August. For me, I'm thinking which properties in Boulder County with our Boulder County Housing Authority and our other partners, which may not be using a supportive housing methodology right now. And so I think that might be an interesting conversation for us, like, from a regional piece, if we all agree. And I think that makes sense for us to align if everybody believes that this is an approach that we should be doing to really look at, what do we have right now already? What's that assessment? So just something that's on my mind as far as reflection from the presentation. And then I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind, Zach, the part where you were talking about that approximate 10,000 per household with ARPA funding on the pilot project. Can you just, when did you start that pilot project? And you're right, I know there's the 2024 and then 2026 deadline with American Rescue Plan Act funds, but just to have an idea and when you might think you're going to have some data and or if there's going to be a report or something like that. Thanks.
Yes, so no, absolutely. And I really appreciate your comment about how we can look at those existing non-supportive housing opportunities, whether they're tenant-based or project-based, because that's where I think the really exciting thing is. Division of Housing has been able to allocate resources for this. Some of the new funding Division of Housing has had access to can be used for vouchers. But if we really want to, increase the scale of this intervention, being able to pair Medicaid funded supportive services with local resources is where there's really exciting stuff happens. So as far as the timelines go, I'm happy to share about this. You are correct. This SWISHY funding does run through the end of federal fiscal year 2024. And so that informs some of the timing on around how many bills there will be, one potentially focused on SWISHY and then one on the Medicaid waiver process. So there may be two bills. That's still somewhat, I think, being determined on the timeline around when we go to CMS in conjunction with changes in the federal landscape and that sort of thing. But on the start point, and let me just get here. So folks started receiving the SWISHY funds in November of 2022. And then we've had 3 cohorts. Our most recent cohort, we started really quickly. The first cohort was existing supportive housing properties. So we're able to say, okay, you're doing supportive housing, you don't have adequate supportive service dollars, we're going to put those service dollars in place. The challenge is that we weren't serving a ton of newly folks experiencing homelessness. We were just enhancing the services to folks in those buildings and units right now. And so the second cohort, we really said, let's create new supportive housing opportunities, whether they're tenant-based or newly opening properties like Valor on the Vax. In Denver is supported through SWISHY. That project in Commerce City I referenced, Greyhound Empowerment Project. Sorry, the Empowerment Program Apartments at Greyhound, I believe is the official name. I apologize. They've changed it around more than once. Those were new units that are coming online that will be filled, and the reason, and then we've had a third cohort that just expanded that further. And the reason we're doing that is that we want to have those insights into the supportive services on both to keep folks in their housing, but then also what it takes to move someone into that housing, because those are slightly different services that are needed across those interventions. So we want to have the full picture of supportive housing. So that's why we're really excited to have so many supportive housing service providers in that cohort, because they all have valuable things to teach us about supportive services. So that's what we have: youth providers, we have reentry focused providers, we have a family service providers who focus on serving, multiple heads of household families. So we really want to get that full picture of the need so that it can inform the design of the eligible services. And then we get to the really fun, negotiations with the regional accountable entities on rate setting, how much is each service worth, how is it coded, what are the relevant accounting codes in Medicaid for those services, how much does HICPUF pay. The really exciting thing is HICPUF is coming to the table for these conversations. They're an insurance organization, so it's really exciting to have them say, nope, we see this as a priority, and we're going to go to those conversations with you, with the folks who receive those invoices from service providers, and have a really frank conversation about what are rates set at, how much can service providers collect, and is it adequate?
Thank you. Any other questions for Zach while we've got him here live?
Would it be helpful for the electeds to know what partnering agencies in your specific jurisdiction are participating in Swishy?
I think that's a great idea. And if there's a way, Heidi, without too much, without asking too much, if there's a way to maybe get that list compiled so that it can be sent out with this video, which won't happen, won't happen today either way, but we'll probably send that out a couple of
Zach just popped it into the chat.
Just popped it into the chat. We're the state of Colorado. You can, Cora, let's show you all the good stuff. So this is a list of all the entities who are participating in Swishy. This is the dollar amount they're getting. This is the number of vouchers. So yeah, we're happy to share this, but yeah, you can see in the Denver metro region, we got the Denver Shelter for the Homeless, Together, formerly known as Detention Homes, Volunteers of America, Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, Jefferson Center for Mental Health Partners, Atlantis Community Foundation, Second Chance Center, Urban Peak, Family Tree, Well Power, Brain Injury Alliance of Colorado, St. Francis Center Empowerment Program. But those are all the metro-focused organizations who are in Swishy right now. We did also recently, in conjunction with Swishy, there's a funding opportunity that HICPUF has made available for peer supports that will also provide funding for Medicaid infrastructure and billing infrastructure, which we know is really critical as well. So that's recently gone out, and hopefully that falls within the larger Swishy community, and we're going to get some additional providers since we are not adding a fourth cohort to Swishy. If all the providers who are in Swishy are in there, unfortunately, doors closed, but any provider is going to benefit from the lessons learned from Swishy. So just because a provider that you may work with isn't in this doesn't mean they're not going to benefit. They're still going to be able to benefit from those long-term, larger structural shifts that we're focused on.
Great. Thank you. I really appreciate, I know other commissioners on the call today are super interested and appreciative as well of you being here and sharing the information. So thank you. So what I want to do is really just talk briefly about what we're going to be doing in the August meeting. So if there's any folks that want to pop out now, that you're totally welcome to stay, and you will also understand if you want to continue on your Friday workday and other things. So one, I want to say thanks to Melinda Stevens, who put together that May summary for us. So the ask is for folks, if you haven't read that, to make sure you've read that as well prior to the August meeting. We have kind of another item here. There was a consideration of a human trafficking resolution for regional commissioners from Commissioner Layden, and so we're also going to move that discussion until August. Just a reminder, the ask was to make sure that folks who are members of MACC would talk with their full boards or councils and just come back in August about if you have made a decision to move forward in some format of a resolution or an ordinance. So it's not a full discussion. We've already had that. It's just a yes or no, so that Commissioner Layden has an update. That will happen in August. And then, of course, we're going to ask members to have gone through this presentation and put together any questions that you have. Mark Rosen, thank you again for preparing with Heidi to have this presentation. Mark will be sending out all the attachments, the presentations. And so if you do have specific questions prior to our August meeting, please email those out so that staff can help us get information that you need to make decisions in August. And again, the ask at the beginning of the year was we want to do action, we want to get movement, we want things to happen. And so that is why we are carrying on today without everybody here live in the meeting. So that's the plan for of kind of homework and preparation so that we can have a robust conversation and make some decisions in August. And then also want to appreciate the Mayor of Denver's staff, Commissioner, our Councilwoman, Say DeBaca was our representative and was very active with MACC. And so we are waiting to hear who our new representative and participant will be. And so we're going to bring them in and try and get some updates before August as well. And so just appreciate the mayor's office offering to give us an update on that emergency declaration. So that'll happen in August as well. So we're going to have a full meeting in August. Commissioner Kerr, question?
Thank you. I've been talking with a couple of the Denver counselors, both new and old, and Daryl Watson has told me that they don't appoint members to go to MACC, but that he will plan on being here on the 18th for sure. So just letting you know that, and I'll make sure I get Mark Rusin his info so that he can make sure he gets all the updated info.
Fantastic. Thank you for being a conduit. We've all been wondering who's going to be able to at least join in some of those initial conversations. So that's great. Any questions, commissioners, about what we're going to be heading towards in August or anything else folks need before we close out today's meeting? All right, great. Well, appreciate it. Again, staff, thank you for all the support and when I say staff, I mean all the staff who have helped us get here and who are here participating today. Really appreciate it. And we will be seeing everybody on August 18th.
Great. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Take care.
Be safe.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.